Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Arena Breakout PvP legends. Today, we're diving into the art of survival, specifically, how to turn deadly grenades into nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Whether you're defending your loot or pushing the fight to your enemies, this pro guide will teach you how to eat grenades and walk away like it was nothing. Let's get started. The game provides 3 different lethal grenades to its players, 2 defensive grenades, the M67 and the MK2, and 1 offensive grenade, the GH02, all of them modeled after real-life counterparts. You may be asking yourself, what's the difference? And you'd be right, as understanding this could mean the difference between eating them like a pro or losing your T6 gear like a clown. Without further ado, let's examine how each grenade affects your character and determine the best tactic to survive. We'll test each grenade in 3 positions: standing, crouching, and prone. In each position, our character will take a total of 4 grenade blasts. We'll position the character in 4 orientations relative to the grenade, facing it head-on at 12 o'clock, with their back to it at 6 o'clock, and to the sides at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Then, we'll measure the damage sustained and analyze the results to identify the best survival tactics. For the first test, we'll use the M67 grenade. This grenade is defensive. Its action, high explosive with fragmentation. Delay, 4.0 to 5.0 seconds. Effective range, large, armor damage. Standard, pierce effect. Standard, fragments. Large, fragment type. Steel piece. At the time this video was created, the tests indicate that the safety radius is approximately 11 meters. This grenade is based on a real defensive grenade with the following specification. Action, high explosive with fragmentation. Fuse, M213. Delay, 4.0 to 5.0 seconds. Explosive charge, 180 grams of composition B. Fragments, approximately 300 to 700. Safety radius, 15 meters. Place of origin, United States. Let's head into the shooting range and carry out the test. Position, standing. Position, crouching. Position: prone. M67 test results. Based on our test, the character's orientation doesn't significantly impact the effectiveness of the M67 grenade. If it did, we would expect the left side of the character to take less damage in the 9 o'clock compared to the 6 o'clock and other orientations. While there is some variation in damage values, this is likely due to the grenade's position being somewhat random due to the game physics or the randomness of the fragmentation. Now, let's examine the damage values in the crouched position. Once again, the character's orientation has little impact or none at all. However, we observe significantly less damage. This means that crouching in any orientation relative to the grenade is more effective than standing, since orientation doesn't make a difference. If you have no choice but to take a grenade while crouching, it's better to focus on holding the sector where the enemy might attack, rather than worrying about your orientation. The prone position is particularly interesting compared to the other stances. Here, orientation does make a difference. As you can see, in the 9 and 3 o'clock orientations, relative to the grenade, our character takes significantly more damage than in the 12 and 6 o'clock orientations. Since the M67 is a fragmentation grenade, it disperses shrapnel upon detonation. Because the character presents a wider target from the sides, but a narrower profile from the front and back, it takes less damage when facing toward or away from the grenade. Additionally, the 12 and 6 o'clock orientations result in significantly less damage than the crouching or standing position. The conclusion is clear. To minimize damage from an M67 grenade, you should position your character to either face directly toward it or directly away from it while being prone. Now, let's move on to testing the MK2 grenade to see if we observe similar results. The MK2 grenade is a defensive grenade. Its action, high explosive with fragmentation. Delay, 4.0 to 5.0 seconds. Effective range, large, armor damage. High, pierce effect. High, fragments. Small, fragment type, iron piece. At the time this video was created, the tests indicate that the safety radius is approximately 11 meters. This grenade is based on a real defensive grenade with the following specifications. Action, high explosive with fragmentation. Time delay fuse, M204 or the M204A1, but historically many more were used. Delay, 4.0 to 5.0 seconds. Explosive charge, 57 grams of TNT. Exact safety distance and fragments are unknown, but it can be presumed that since it has similar weight and TNT amount to the F1 grenade, it may have very similar safety and fragmentation distances, which are approximately 290 fragments, and safety radius of 30 meters. Place of origin, United States. Position, standing. Position, crouching. Position, prone. MK2 test results. This MK2 test further supports my theory that orientation does not play a role in damage taken, except for the prone stance. Regardless of the character's orientation in the standing stance, the damage remains consistent across all 4 orientations. My theory is that the fragmentation and blast effects are calculated based on distance from the grenade and the stance which the player is using. However, there seems to be an issue with the damage model. In theory, a character positioned at 9 or 3 o'clock should take less damage due to presenting a smaller profile to the grenade fragments. Yet this effect is only observed in the prone position. Let's proceed with the crouch stance. We know orientation of the player in the 3D space does not affect damage taken when standing or crouching, but this test further proves that fragmentation grenades cause less damage the lower your stance is. Here, the difference is great. Remember, we were left with only 56 health points while standing, but when crouched, we save around 100 health points. Now, onto the prone stance. This test once again confirms that the damage model accounts for orientation, but only in the prone stance. Furthermore, the damage taken while prone at 9 and 3 o'clock is comparable to just ignoring the MK2 grenade. However, if you choose to face the grenade or position yourself in the opposite direction, the difference is massive. In the previous test, we saved around 100 health points, but here we save almost 200 points. The conclusion is clear. To minimize damage from an MK2 grenade, you should either crouch or go prone. However, if you decide to go prone and minimize the grenade's effects to the maximum, make sure to position your character either facing directly toward the grenade or 180 degrees away from it. Now, let's move on with testing the GH02 grenade and see the results. I promise you, they are interesting. The GH02 grenade is an offensive grenade. Its action, high explosive with blast. Fuse delay is 4.0 to 5.0 seconds. Effective range. Standard. This is not a fragmentation grenade, meaning it doesn't produce any shrapnel. Instead, it contains a large amount of explosive charge and relies on its blast effect. The shockwave it produces can reach enemies even behind cover. At the time this video was created, the tests indicate that the safety radius is approximately 10 meters. This grenade is based on a real offensive grenade with the following specifications. Action: high explosive with blast. Time delay fuse, AF11. Fuse delay, 4.0 to 5.0 seconds. Explosive charge, 75 grams of RDX. Fragments, none. Safety radius, 15 meters. Place of origin, Bulgaria. Let's head into the shooting range and carry out the test. Position: standing. Position: crouching. Position: prone. GHO2 test results. The GHO test results confirm what we already know. A character's orientation in 3D space does not affect the damage taken. When facing the grenade at 12 o'clock, the test recorded the highest damage in the stand position. However, After conducting additional tests, I noticed some randomness in the damage values, which could be due to either randomness in the damage or slight errors in grenade placement on my part, which would result in my character being closer or further from the blast. In any case, more often than not, the damage values remain the same regardless of the character's orientation. Let's see the crouch test. This is where things get interesting. The damage values are slightly lower, but based on further testing, this appears to be random. Additionally, the variation in this specific test is likely due to positioning, as I can only carry 4 grenades per test due to not wearing any gear to ensure fairness. This means that when changing stances, I have to reposition the character, which can result in slight differences in the distance between the grenade and the player each time I switch stances. In fact, for this grenade, the character's profile does not matter at all, and you can receive the same damage values as when standing. This test further reinforces what we've observed about the only offensive grenade in the game. Stance does not affect damage for this grenade. As you can see, the damage values are identical, regardless of orientation relative to the blast. This is because the grenade does not rely on fragmentation. It's a blast grenade, meaning target profile is irrelevant. Distance is the key factor. Another crucial factor, although not shown in the video but tested by me, is cover. While cover helps reduce the damage taken, unlike other grenades, you'll still receive some damage from this one. My recommendation: put as much distance between yourself and the grenade as possible, and if available, use cover. Most importantly, do the unexpected. Stand and focus on covering the sector from which the enemy is likely to push. The enemy will most likely pre-aim for your head at the crouch or prone height. Position: partial cover. Partial cover. Test results. As you can see, the damage you take is limited to the body parts exposed to the grenade blast and shrapnel. Keeping this in mind, along with the findings from previous tests, we now know that crouching or going prone behind cover can further minimize the effects of fragmentation grenades. However, remember that this only applies to fragmentation grenades, as the shockwave from the GHO grenade will damage you, even behind full cover. When dealing with any grenade, the obvious priority is to make distance and find hard cover. However, if you're in a tight spot and those options aren't available, you need to minimize the damage as much as possible. That's exactly why this is a pro guide on eating grenades, as you'll eat them, not avoid them entirely. Now, let's go over the best tactics to avoid an instant extraction. First, you must distinguish between fragmentation and blast grenades, but I will explain why in a moment. Each grenade has a distinct red indicator visible on the screen that you can use to react accordingly. For fragmentation grenades, use any available cover. Even partial cover is better than nothing, as it will limit damage to body parts which are exposed to the blast. The lower you go, the less damage you take, even without cover. If you are in a prone position, make sure to face directly toward or 180 degrees away from the blast, as exposing your sides is the same as ignoring the grenade entirely. If you were lazy and didn't watch the whole video, let me summarize it for you. If you're prone and face the grenade with the side of your body, due to being a wider profile, you'll get the maximum damage. But body orientation has effects on the damage only in the prone position. For the rest, you can orient yourself however you see fit. So, if cover isn't an option, maximize your distance and go prone, but ensure your sides aren't exposed to the blast. Optimally, you want to get low and behind cover, but if you need to maintain mobility, crouching is an option, though it will cost significantly more health than when in prone, but it's still much better than standing. For blast grenades like the GHO, distance and cover are the only things that matter, as tests show that body orientation or stance does not affect how much damage you take. The minimum safe distance is around 10 meters, and anything less than that will result in exponentially higher damage. If cover isn't available, crouching or going prone serves no purpose, so instead, focus on making as much distance as possible. In fact, standing might actually work in your favor, as most players will expect you to crouch or go prone. That's the full blast on grenade survival in Arena Breakout. Now you're primed, prepped, and practically grenade-proof, with knowledge to turn the odds in your favor in your next PvP encounter. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.